Hi, and welcome to the Registration Procedures and Swimming Canada Registration System, the next normal of what it will look like in 2020-2021 season. First on the agenda, we'll go through all the new things for club affiliation and those requirements. It's all outlined in the registration guide that we provided. However, we'll go through all the new things here. The registration requirements and deadlines for swimmers and coaches, we'll outline those. Then we'll move on to what it will look like in the Swimming Canada registration system, so the RTR system, and we'll show examples of what it will look like. And finally, we'll have a question and answer period. In the meantime, you can submit your questions while the presentation is happening using the address that you find here highlighted in yellow. So as mentioned, we will go through the club affiliation process overview and all of the requirements, everything that is new for the 2020-2021 season. All of this information that we're providing is available in the affiliation registration guide for 2020. So one of the things that's new for this season is because of the pandemic, is that clubs will need to submit a return to swimming plan for the fall by August 21st. That's to make sure that we have a safe return to swimming. So clubs that have already been swimming for the summer period and have had a plan that's been approved by Swim Ontario would still need to submit updates to their plan that includes any new facilities, any new training schedules. All of that has to be included. We need to have schedules for September, October, so that we can review what's planned for the fall for those clubs. Clubs that haven't yet returned to training, their pool has not yet reopened and will be reopening in September, October, and November, can still submit that return to swimming plan by following the template that we provided to the clubs. That template has a lot of things that you have to do even before you get to a facility. So even if you don't have the facility protocols, and the entrance, the exit, what they need to do when they're in the facility, you can still create your return to swimming plan by following what that template is. There are also things you have to do when you leave after a workout. So all of those things can be included in your return to swimming plan, and you can just outline that the facility protocols are not yet in place and training schedules are not yet in place. However, there are phase-in projects that you can put in for training schedules and how you plan on doing that restart. All of this information is available in our Swim Ontario Return to Operation Safely.
Can everybody hear me now?
I can hear you, Nicole.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
Okay, my apologies. So we have a template that you can follow. We understand that you may not have all of your facility protocols in place because the facility is not opening up. However, the template, there's lots of things that you can do in the template before you even get to the facility protocols. So there's a whole bunch of things that need to be done even before you get to the facility. And then after you leave the facility as well. So all those things can be put together and in using the template. So just to make sure that everybody understands that the 2019-2020 season affiliation, registration period, and insurance with Swimming Canada and Swim Ontario ends on August 31, 2020. And then the new season, 2020-2021 season, begins on September 1. So it's very important that everybody understands this. And we're going to hopefully answer some of your questions here. The next two slides are questions that we're getting, so we thought we would address them right from the beginning. So what do clubs need in place to continue program on or after September 1? So if you have been training during the summer, you have training time that goes from August 31 to September 4th as an example. There are several things that the clubs will need to have in place to be able to continue and not have any interruption in that training. So if I could just ask people to mute their microphones, that would be great. Thank you. We're getting feedback noise. So complete club affiliation, including payment of the affiliation fees. Submit a return to swimming plan for fall activities. You need to have current coaches' employment agreements or contracts in place. The coaches need to complete their CSCA account. They're updating, screening, and registration. The coaches need to execute the 2020-21 assumption of risk and COVID attestation via their CSCA account or their RTR account. We'll go through examples of that. The families and swimmers registered, they need to be registered with the club for the 2020-21 season. So either Team Unify or other membership software that you use, it all depends on what you use. And that the family and the swimmers have executed the 2020-21 assumption of risk and COVID attestation through the RTR. All right. So that's what clubs need to have in place in order to not have an interruption between the 2019-20 season and the 2020-21 season. What happens when you're not yet in the water? You have no clue what's happening at this point. When do you complete the 2020-21 club affiliation if you're going to be delayed? So things that you need to be aware of. If the club is operating or is providing dry land training or virtual training, that they'll need to complete the affiliation form and pay their affiliation fees prior to continuing this programming in September. So you're operating. So you need to go through the same process that you would from the previous slide. So even if you're not in the water, you still need to go through that process. If the club wishes to have voting rights or a proxy vote at the virtual AGM that will be held in October, then the club must affiliate and pay their affiliation fees, and all of the required documents have to be submitted. If the club will not operate until after November 30th and only be in a position to affiliate after November 30th, then there's two things that clubs need to be aware of. The club executive would no longer be covered by director's liability insurance beginning on December 1 until the affiliation is completed. And existing clubs that are in good standing that would wish to affiliate after November 30th may be allowed to do so on a case-by-case basis. All right. So we have a club affiliation form. An email was sent to club presidents and club registrars, and coaches were also included in this, head coaches, where there was an edit link that you could use and complete your club affiliation based off of that edit link and not have to redo all of this stuff, and then just update it with information from 2020-21 forms that you need, and any changes that you would have to any of the people that you need to list on your affiliation form. So any of the documents that require multiple signatures, those will be attached as a PDF when you complete the affiliation form. And then you have to collect those signatures and send them to Heather at swimontario.com. So that's Heather that is collecting that information. If you want to start all over, you can with a new one by just clicking on the affiliation form, and it shows up and you can just start a brand new one. Once you've collected those signatures, you can use the edit link again and upload them that way. Heather gets a notification, so it's not an issue. So you don't necessarily have to email them, scan and email them to her. If you want, you can mail them, physically mail them, but that just takes a little bit longer using the mail system. All the additional forms for affiliation must be replaced with 2020-21 editions. So a lot of you would have done the forms last year. They look very similar, but we have to have updated for this season. So just make sure that you do collect those signatures and they are sent to Heather. We also have the forms available on our club operations forms page. They are all located here if you wish to just use these instead of the ones that are sent when you complete the affiliation form. All right. Insurance certificates, lots of questions regarding that. We've changed the wording a little bit on in our registration guide. And so just wanted to make sure that everybody understands how the insurance certificates will work and how the Dive Start certificates will work with affiliation. So as you know, our insurance certificates go from December 1 to November 30th for all clubs who meet requirements. So these are the insurance certificates that you get, that you give to the facilities when you are getting permits. So our current insurance certificates are valid until November 30th, 2020. So Ontario requires that all facilities, pool and non-aquatic facilities, and additional information that you need to have on those insurance certificate be included on that affiliation form. It's important to remove any facilities you no longer use and add any new facilities or information required on the insurance certificate prior to November 1. Clubs will be, as usual, clubs will be permitted to apply for and request additional certificates of insurance for any new unexpected facility that you will need to use. But for the affiliation, it's important to list all of the ones that you're going to be using throughout the season so that we can then make sure that we have all of the information when we're sending the insurance requests to the insurer for the new certificates starting December 1. I believe I forgot to show one thing, and I don't know where it is. So we'll go back to here. I thought I would have an example, but I don't. Dive Start certificates. So all Dive Start and length compliance certificates for pools listed on the affiliation form must be on file with Swim Ontario for your club or completed by September 1, 2020 as part of the affiliation process. So any facilities that's on your affiliation form, we have to have the Dive Start certificate for your club on file. This is mandatory for all, a Dive Start certificate is mandatory for when you request an insurance certificate. So there are two different types of Dive Start certificate, and the links are provided here. You can't click on it during the presentation, but those are available on our forms page, and the links are provided here in the slide deck. So some deadlines that clubs need to be aware of. These were provided in the registration guide. However, we broke down the tables for each of the sections of the presentation today. So clubs and head coaches before August 21, we need to submit a board approved return to swimming plan for the fall to Swim Ontario. The clubs before September 1, complete the affiliation forms and submit completed required forms to Swim Ontario. And then Swim Ontario on or after September 1 can grant access to the clubs who have completed all of their requirements to the registration system, and they can begin the registration process for their swimmers. So what's new for this season on the registration system? Lots. Participants must be fully registered with Swimming Canada, Swim Ontario on the RTR within 2 weeks of beginning any activity. So that's important. That grace period, you have to make sure that it is adhered to and that the 2 weeks is what you have to get them registered. So all participants must have a registered or active status in the RTR in order to continue with activities before the 2-week grace period has ended. There's several documents, tick boxes and consent forms that require signatures that need to be completed by the registrant on the RTR. There are also Rowan's Law, part of Rowan's Law implementation, and what we require from the families, coaches, officials will all be done through the RTR now. And new this year, PIPEDA consent forms are no longer required due to the updates of nonprofit privacy laws. So the club, as a consequence, the club no longer needs to collect a whole bunch of forms from their families when they're doing their member registration from a Swim Ontario perspective. It's all going to be tracked through the RTR. All right. From the national registration procedures, what's new? Transfers at the beginning of the season don't count as a first transfer. Varsity, there's a year-round club affiliation that's now available, and that link provides you with an explanation of how that all works. So there'll be a varsity year-round swimmer registration category, as well as the ones only until September. Master swimmers, there will only be one registration category. And non-competitive is now called pre-competitive, and that pre-competitive is limited to 17 and under swimmers. So what are the registration requirements and the deadlines for swimmers and coaches? So current registration and insurance for all participants end on August 31. So all the consent forms completed for summer training also expire on August 31, even if the current programming that a club is doing continues into September. So that's very important to remember this. Clubs that have program that extend past August 31 will need to have all their club affiliation completed prior to September 1 to ensure there's no interruption in programming. And if you remember that one of those first slides where we had actual examples of what all of the requirements that the club has to have in order to be able to continue that programming. Clubs are granted access to the RTR no earlier than September 1 for the 2020-21 season. The RTR does shut down every year. This is nothing new. It's for their yearly maintenance and for the rollover to the new season. That happens on Monday, August 24th. So club registrars, families, coaches, and officials will no longer have access to their RTR account. And that date will be important with the next slide. So new procedures for swimmers, they will need to execute an acknowledgement and assumption of risk form and a COVID-19 attestation form. Those will be done through the RTR. These must be individually executed by the swimmer and or parent guardian if the swimmer is a minor to be fully registered. The 2020-21 forms will be available on Tuesday, August 18th. So this is a change from our previous, what's in our registration guide. That registration guide will be updated today, but to be safe, we're saying August 18th as when those will be available. So any new forms completed and signed prior to the RTR shutdown will roll over to the new season. So anything between August 18th and before August 24th, any family that goes into the RTR to sign those forms will be able to, those will be recognized when the rollover happens to the new season. So we're asking club registrars who have programming that's rolling over from August 31 to September 1 to encourage their families to log into their account and complete those consent forms to ensure no interruption in that training. The assumption of risk and COVID-19 forms must be completed prior to commencing or continuing an activity. So those need to be done. Remember, the old forms expire August 31. And so if you have programming that starts on September 1, those forms have to be completed. So unlike the 2-week grace period that you have to get fully registered, these forms actually have to be done before they commence or continue an activity. Rowan's Law, there are new requirements. Phase 2 has come into play, and that means that we have a new Swim Ontario concussion management procedure that all registrants will need to be familiar with, and they will be signing off that they have reviewed the procedure as well as done their the learning modules or resources for concussion that's on the Government of Ontario's webpage. So that's all part of the RTR. So prior to August 8th, or sorry, prior to the shutdown, I do not believe that these will be available, that the Rowan's Law will be available on the RTR. It will only be beginning September 1, but Heather B can maybe answer that question. I'm not 100% sure if the Rowan's Law will be available prior to the shutdown. Club registrars on or after September 1, they can begin their registration. Once they get access, they can begin their registration procedures for swimmers, generate invoice, make payment to Swim Ontario. Swimmers and parents on or after August 18th, before the August 24th shutdown, they can log in and do the COVID-19 attestation and the assumption of risk form. I'm not 100% sure Rowan's Law will be there, but if it is, they can do that one as well, and it will roll over to the following season. They will again need to log in once you do generate those invoices on September 1. That will trigger a new registration, which they will then need to update their contact information and complete the consent questions. So I think only the ones that are doing training where there's August 31 to September 1 you should be encouraging them to log in prior to the shutdown. However, if you only want them to have to log in once, then it can be done after September 1, and they can complete those attestation forms on September 1 September 2nd, whenever you get the registration period going. So it avoids having to do it to log in twice if your swimmers are not doing training right now. Those assumption of risk and COVID forms must be completed prior to commencing or continuing an activity. For coaches registration, what's new for 2020-21? So the same thing, they'll have an acknowledgement of risk and COVID-19 attestation forms that they'll need to complete. And those have to be executed by the coach to be fully registered. Those forms will be available on or after September 1. Coaches can log into their CSCA account to access these forms, or through the RTR, through their RTR account, if they remember how to log into there. There will be a consent tab beginning on September 1 that they can go and click on that to get to their to those forms. Club registrars should encourage the coaches to log into their accounts and complete those consent forms to ensure there's no interruption in coaching. So if you have coaches who are going from August 31 to September 1 training and coaching, then they'll need to, on September 1, complete those before they go onto the deck. All right. Rowan's Law, so the coaches will have something similar to the parents. They will have to review the Swim Ontario concussion management. There is a code of conduct that they have to agree to, as well as review the concussion awareness resources for all the age groups. So that form, the acknowledgement that they've done all of that, will be on the will be part of the registration process on the RTR, and will be part of those the consent tab on the RTR, or they can get to it through their CSCA accounts. Those can't be done until September 1, on or after September 1. They'll also have to do an offense declaration, regardless of their age or where they are with their VSC requirements. All coaches will need to complete an offense declaration that will be done through the RTR. It will be available on or after September 1. So just to be clear, the offense declaration procedure has changed a little bit, in that every year they're going to have to do an offense declaration through the RTR. However, the vulnerable sector checks procedures have not changed. The vulnerable sector checks will be considered valid for a maximum of 3 years from the date of issue, provided that they are received from within 365 days of issue. So important that hasn't changed, and will still be tracked through PSO requirements. The offense declaration is an annual requirement now. Also, for registration for 2020-21, there is a coach safe sport requirement. All coaches have to complete one of these 2 modules, Respect in Sport Activity Leader module, or the CAC Safe Sport module. That's available at these links that are here. That's information is on our forms page, so that coaches can access it, can see where those links are. They have to do that to be fully registered. The RTR is going to be tracking this, and it's mandatory for all coaches. So that the safe sport requirements will be shown as a PSO requirement on the RTR. The club registrar will be able to see which coach has completed which module. Only one module is necessary to be fully registered. So to get that green check mark, and to say registration status registered, you only need to do one of them. So here's some dates and deadlines. So the club registrar on or after September 1, begin the registration procedures for the coaches, generate an invoice, make a payment to Swim Ontario, make a payment to CSCA. That's a second invoice. There's 2 invoices that are created when you do coach registration. Coaches on or after September 1 can log into their CSCA account and complete all of those forms that are there. And right now they can go and do those Safe Sport modules and go and do those. Just a reminder that the assumption of risk and COVID forms must be completed prior to commencing or continuing an activity or continuing coaches in this case. Payment of invoices. So there is something a little bit new. Payment will be accepted prior to all accounts being updated. So remember how we had to have all green check marks. We no longer we're not going to delay the registration of swimmers. So we will be accepting payment before we have all green check marks. If you have your microphone on, if you can mute it, that would be great. Thank you. And clubs will have 2 weeks to ensure participants are fully registered. We're going to be monitoring that. So make sure that even though we've taken payment, that doesn't mean that they're fully registered. You have to keep monitoring the status and all of the requirements that the families and coaches need to do in order to be fully registered. So how do you make those payments to Swim Ontario? There are several ways you can do that. You can authorize use of a credit card that we have on file by emailing Heather. You can make a check payable to Swim Ontario. However, that does delay things. So just to be aware that when you're mailing a check, that does delay the processing of the invoice. We have to have the check in hand to mark it that payment has been received. You can send an e-transfer to etransfers@swimontario.com, indicating invoice number and club name so we know who you are. There is no password that is required. To set up a credit card on file or to make a one-time credit card payment, email Heather to get instructions as to how she would like to proceed with that. That would be the best way of doing that. So just a reminder that the registration process for coaches generates 2 invoices on the RTR. One goes to CSCA with the option to pay online if you wanted to. That only pays for the CSCA invoice, and a second invoice that's payable to Swim Ontario with the instructions that are above. So we don't have a pay online. We do have e-transfer checks or authorize of credit card, but not the pay online. The CSCA invoice, you can pay via check. You're mailing it to an address in British Columbia. So just be aware of that as well. It takes a little bit longer to get there if you do send your invoice, your payment of invoice via mail for the CSCA. The address is on the invoice. All right, so the Swimming Canada registration system, the RTR. So we're going to go through a few slides here, then we're going to go give some examples. So important, the CSCTA, which was what you have known it, is now the CSCA. So Canadian Swimming Coaches Association is what they are now known as. There are some areas of the RTR that haven't been updated with this this acronym. So just be aware, you might see CSCTA in some areas. Coaches will log into their CSCA account to complete all their required documents to be fully registered. They can start doing that on September 1st. You as a club registrar can certainly encourage them to complete their stuff by using the resend CSCTA email. When you generate an invoice, they will get that email. But if you want to encourage them to keep on making sure that they do all of their requirements, you can select the coach and click on resend CSCTA or CSCA email, and they will then hopefully log into their account and complete all of the forms that they need to complete. When they are doing their CSCA screening and answering the questions that are on CSCA, once they've done that, there will be a button or something, I'm not quite sure because I don't have a CSCA account, that they will be able to click on to log into their RTR account. It will directly go there for them, and then they click on the consent tab and do their forms. So coaches, try and encourage them to do that as soon as possible. For families and swimmers, the account login will be a challenge this year. Some of them don't know how to log into their account. There is a document. The link is here, but I will bring it up here. Here is how to log into your account, how to sign the acknowledgement and assumption of risk form, but that applies to COVID-19, Rowan's Law, all the forms that are on there. So what we encourage people to do is to use the forgot username password button and go through that. So the thing with using the forgot email feature, username and password, you have to know what your email address that's in the system. So it has to be an email address that's in there so that it recognizes which account it is. So very important to have updated email addresses on your on the RTR. So that will be an important aspect. So they can use the forgot username password, follow the instructions to be able to log in. You'll have to make sure that that email address is accurate. So based off of what you have with your membership registration, you'll have to make sure that that email address is up to date. And then if you wanted to, you can use the resend email feature that's available to club registrars to resend the email for registration. However, what happens when you do the resend email button is they basically get an email that says this. So it says a registration for form test has been submitted to Swim Ontario. So you're not really doing a registration when you're resending that email. You're actually just asking them to log in. So they may get a little bit confused because they would get this possibly prior to September 1, and then you would do it again. You would do it again on September 1, and then would get a new one. So just to be aware that this is the kind of email that they would get if you use the resend button. At the end of this, it does say that they will. That they can click here, that they can do their acknowledgement of risk form, but that also means COVID-19, Rowan's Law, all of that. So they could click and get into their account after they create a new password to be able to do it. So you can use the resend email button, or they can use the forgotten password. And that one, the email is a lot more it makes more sense because they've basically forgotten what their username is and their password is. So if you use this feature, then you get this kind of email where it says a forgotten or a new password request has been received. My email address is there. And they pick which account. So they would pick swimmer account here because that's the one they want to log in. And they would provide you with the username, and then you would create a new password. And so then they would know how to log into their account to do the form. So just something that you might want to provide those instructions that are in the that are provided here in this document, so that they can use the forgot username password. Okay. All right. Let's go back to the presentation. So once they logged in, this is what they're going to see. They're going to be, once they log in, they're going to be on the updates page. And so that section will be visible, and we're going to make sure on August 18th that the instructions for signing the forms and for getting a fully registered updated account are all provided on that updates page, so that they can refer to it as they're going through the process. So that will all be part of the updates that they will see. It's not there yet. It will be put on there on August 17th when we have full instructions. You'll see here, this is a little, this screenshot here is a little bit different from what we currently have on the RTR. So I've shown screenshots of what it will look like on September 1. Because it will look just a little bit different. It will say consents here, and it will be a drop-down menu. So you'll have updates, account details, consents, and then there will be two submenus. One for consent, which will be tick boxes that they have to click, meaning that's for the rewards program, and if they want to receive emails, that will be what is part of the consent part. And then they will have all of then if they click on the consent forms, that's where all of the forms will be, the acknowledgement and assumption of risk, COVID-19, attestation, and Rowan's Law acknowledgement. So all of that will be on the consent form tab. Right. So the account details menu is where all the swimmer and contact and login information is located. Oftentimes, I know club registrars would do this for their swimmers and just confirm and submit. We would prefer that it actually be the family that does this, so we make sure that it's the most up-to-date email address that's in there, and then they know how to log into their account and do what needs to be done. So important that they click on confirm and submit information here. That is all part of the process to getting that green check mark and being fully registered. For the how to get an updated account with the consent part, to be fully registered, they have to execute all the forms for all the swimmers associated with the account beginning on August 18th. Complete the consent questions. Confirm and submit account details beginning September 1. All right. So 3 things that they have to do in order to be fully registered. Those assumption of risk and COVID-19 forms have to be completed prior to commencing or continuing an activity. I keep repeating, but I just want to make sure everybody's clear on that. The club registrar account, there's a consent report that you will be able to run, and that consent report will tell you, will let you know who's signed. You will also get an email a notification when when a form is completed. When a form has been signed. So when the assumption of risk form is signed, you'll get an email notification for each of the swimmers that are part of that account. We're going to go and show you this. There'll be a filter, and I don't have that. I can't show that right now, but there will be a filter for roles for swimmers, coaches, and officials for that consent report. It will be available. That will be available on September 1 when after the shutdown. So before we go to this, it's probably going to log me out. I've created a swimmer called test form, and I've put them on an invoice, generated an invoice. The invoice has been marked paid. So you will see here that the account is not updated. And this will be new for a lot of club registrars because we're going to accept the payment before you have all of your green check marks. So you're going to have you're going to see a lot of statuses that say account pending, which you're not necessarily familiar with. And so I just wanted to show you this is, it's green, and this is what it will look like once we have accepted payment, but they haven't done all of that needs to be done in their account. If I wanted to resend an email, I would just click here and click on resend an email. I can only do the resend of an email once an invoice has been generated. So that's important. If you are getting people to sign prior to the shutdown on August 24th, they're already registered, so you can resend the email. That is an option that you do have because they are fully registered. The resend email will work. But if you only have them pending, or if they are invoice pending, you will not be able to just to say resend email. Only once they've been added to an invoice will you be able to do resend email. All right. So if I go to that particular account, you will see here we have account details and consents. So if I click on, so I knew it was going to log me out. And I did not want to do this, but we'll do this. So consent here, you will see the list of consents. There is one swimmer down here. That's my son when he used to swim a long time ago. And he used to swim in Alberta. So that's why in Manitoba, that's why the Manitoba form is showing up here. We're just going to concentrate on test forms here. And I've clicked one already. So it's showing as signed and click to view. So if I click to view, a new form will open. So this was the COVID-19 attestation, and completed all of the check boxes, put in anything that needed to be filled out at the bottom, and then clicked sign. After I click sign, then I can print this if I wanted to. So I'm going to close that, and I'm going to show it. But the important thing is that it shows that it's been signed and that they can view it at any time. You can also, as a club registrar, go in and see this. Okay, so here's the acknowledgement and assumption of risk. So this, I have to put in my name because this is a minor. So I have to add my name and what I am to this minor. And then I read what it says here, make sure all of the check boxes are clicked, make sure that I read it very carefully as it says here. And then I go to the bottom and I indicate where I am. Make sure that I type in my name here. It's automatically doing it because I have autofill. And then just click on sign. And the acknowledgement of risk form is now complete. I can print it, save it onto my computer if I wanted to. So it's as simple as that. The only thing that you have to redo here is click consent to see it again, that it's been signed. Hopefully that will be fixed for the August 18th, so you don't have to click on consent again to see that it has been signed. All right, so then this particular swimmer now has completed all of this. If I go to account details, I can just click submit. No, don't want to get emails. Submit. Did it do it? No. What does it want? Please confirm that you want to receive emails. Sorry, Heather. I'm going to say no. All right. So all of this has been done. And we should now see that the swimmer is now registered and they would have a green check mark. So the status is saying that they are registered because the forms have been completed. All right. So no longer account updated for account pending. It's now status registered. All right. So that's the demonstration of how that works. It's fairly simple once they've logged in. That will probably be the most frustrating thing is logging in. So upcoming new features for September 1 for the Club Registrar account, just some things that you don't see yet, but that you will see when you get access for the new season. There's an add support staff. You'll be able to add physiotherapists, massage therapists, all of those you'll be able to add. Those will be important for national meets and such. They'll be under manage users. You'll be able to add a given name for a swimmer profile, or the family can add it. They're supposed to review all of that, so they can add a given name if need be. Coaches lookup feature, yay! That will be nice to have. Club Registrar is required to add a date of birth for any new coaches. That will be important, and they have to be 15 years of age or older. There'll be a coach list export. And also the Club Registrar will be able to easily see which PSO requirements are or are not completed by hovering over the X icon. So you don't have to click on the X icon, you'll just be able to hover over it, and then a box will show up to show you which PSO requirements have been completed. So that's a big bonus to know where we are at with the registration of the coaches and see where they are. Details will be available to the club in the Club Registrar guide. Check the updates menu when you log in on or after September 1. We'll have the Club Registrar guide available on that updates page so that you can refer to it and see where all these new features, how they all work. All right, we're at the question and answer. Okay, so Heather has just told me that the automatic refresh will be all ready for the new season. So she's indicating that. All right, so let's go to the question period here. And sorry, I'll move this to over here. So there's I will present this one here. How should we handle trials for prospective new club members, particularly with the release and attestation forms? We will have a communication that will come out shortly, and procedures for that will be presented, will be in that communication. All right. And we will have all of the details with respect to the attestation forms and the assumption of risk forms, how that will all work in that communication. Present. For non-aquatic facilities, does grassy areas outside our pool have to be documented if we do dryland outside? In your return to swimming plan, yes, we'd like to know where you are doing your activation dryland activities. It is all part of how it will all work in your training schedule. So yes, please provide that in your return to swimming plan. Oh dear. All right, for affiliation of varsity athletes that are staying home with their home clubs for September to December, attending university virtually, do they still have a reduced varsity membership option with their affiliated university, or do they have to pay the full competitive Swim Ontario Swimming Canada membership? So if they're doing their training with their home club, they are registering with their home club. It depends on who they are doing their training. So if you remember, a majority of the training is who you're registering with. Heather, do you want to maybe chime in here in case I'm not giving the right information? Our Heather SO. Nope, not there. We might have to take this one offline.
Sorry, I'm here now.
Okay, good.
They wouldn't have the option in the drop-down menu, I don't believe, to select that varsity. They would have varsity open competitive. That's it.
Okay, so
They
with their home clubs.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm skimming through the questions here. Sorry, so there's a pause. The return to swimming questions, I'm going to wait until we have a communication coming out on next week, which will answer many of these questions. So I will defer and only concentrate on affiliation and registration questions and insurance. Can we have the insurance certificate submitted now instead of wait until November? Well, for current registration, current certificates are valid until November 30th or December 1. And there will be a new set of insurance certificates that will need to be provided to the clubs for December 1, because they expire. So you can submit all of the information on your affiliation form now. You don't need to wait until November, but we can't provide you with an insurance certificate until the insurance company provides that insurance certificate for December 1, 2020 to December 1, 2021. So you won't be getting it until close to December 1, as is the normal. Rowan's Law, parents will have access to that consent form on the RTR later, or is it available now? It is not available now. Heather B, will it be available on August 18th? Here's a question for you because I'm not sure.
I've asked for it to be available for August 18th. So August 18th, for swimmers, the 3 forms will be available: the acknowledgement and assumption of risk form, the COVID attestation, and the Rowan's Law for swimmers should all be available on August 18th.
Excellent. Thank you,
And
Heather.
as well, on August 18th, they can also answer the additional 2 questions, the additional 2 consents. But upon registration on September 1st, they are still going to have to log back into their account to confirm their swimmer information. So even if you complete all the forms and the 2 consent messages on August 18th, on September 1st, or whenever your club registrar activates the account, you still will need to log back into the RTR simply to confirm that the account information is correct.
Yes, we were, so the consent questions can be done before and they'll roll over?
Yes.
Is that, oh, okay. That's good
so
to know.
Those will all roll over. The only thing that won't roll over is confirming account information.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. Good, thank you. Sorry, I'm just reading the questions. Pre-competitive, I thought pre-competitives are not allowed in. Can you confirm? The pre-competitive is a registration category, Lori. And so we have not said that they are not allowed to be swimming, just that it's just a registration category that is available for the club registrar. So it's still there, doesn't mean that you have to use it. Will parents have to go back into the RTR to sign off on consent forms for 2020 season if they have done it within the past few days? Yes. The new forms for 2020-21 will not be available until August 18th. So yes, they will have to go back in and complete those. It's a different process than Adobe Sign. There's testing that you can do, but if they've done it, they'll have to redo it again for the 2020-21 season. It's a new form. They're slightly different than the ones that are currently there. RTR, families can register August 17th to 23rd for the 2021 season, then after September 1, correct? Well, you would not. So these are for swimmers. You would only do the get them to sign their forms for those that are currently registered and need to continue training so they don't have any interruption in their training. So anybody who's registered now on the RTR will need to go into the RTR and complete those forms beginning August 18th and complete those before the shutdown on the 23rd or 24th. Complete those so there's no interruption in their training. However, if it's a new swimmer for the that's only starting, let's say, on September 4th, as an example, a brand new swimmer that's starting on September 4th that has not been registered, then you would only start that registration process for the following season on September 1. You can't generate invoices for the 2020-21 season right now. You have to wait until you get access on or after September 1. So the Rowan's Law slide stated that both swimmer and parent guardian must complete agree. Does the swimmer have a separate account? No, there will be all it is the consent just has an and. So the parent and the swimmer both have agreed that they have completed, that they have reviewed the resources. That's all it is. So instead of and or, it's an and. That's it. That's the only difference. Do clubs need to keep a copy of the COVID attestation forms on file? Well, they will be on the RTR and available to you at any time. So do you need to keep a copy somewhere else? Well, they're on the RTR. So, and they won't go anywhere. Will you be providing a family swimmer RTR guide video? I have a feeling that that would be very useful to send to our membership. Well, we have this that tells you how to log in. It will be updated with the new stuff for the when there's the rollover, but it has all the instructions are in this document that is available to you as the club registrar. If you include it with your email to the families, then this is all geared towards the swimmer family. This document, it's not for the club registrar. This is for the family. How do I go into my account and how do I sign those forms? Sorry, it might not be going in the right order. Are all these forms through the RTR prompted and automatically sent to member families when the club registrar puts everything in this system? Or do we have to prompt everyone personally to log in and do it? So when you generate an invoice, that creates an email that's sent. The email looks like this. But basically everyone gets this email. That's why the email address is really important to be up to date, that it's entered correctly. That's the one, other than the gender and age and date of birth, that's one of the important things, so that they get that email. If they're not doing those forms, if they haven't logged in, that's when you would either use the forgotten password, provide them with the link, and that's in that document, those instructions. Provide them with the link to go and do the forgot username, password, and log in, or use the resend button, resend email button to prompt them to get it done. Okay. I don't know what happened. New insurance certificates will not include any COVID-19 related insurance provisions. Correct, but we're working on amending that. Just trying to get to the questions here. So to confirm, for clubs that are rolling over August 31 to September 4th, the swimmer needs to be registered with the club for training to continue, but they have 2-week grace period to complete the 2020-21 forms on the RTR. They do not. The assumption of risk and COVID-19 forms must be completed on September 1 or before they go back into the water. the Rowan's Law, they do have 2 weeks to do that. So the assumption of risk and COVID forms have to be done before they get back in the water or do dry land training or virtual training. They're not insured beginning August 31. And so you have to, and that assumption of risk and COVID form is no longer valid, the one they did in the summer. So you have to get them to do another one before they get, that's why we have the August 18th to before the shutdown on August 24th. We have that period where the swimmer and the families can go in and complete those 2 forms. I think that's all the questions. Pretty good on there. If you have any other questions, some of the stuff is return to swimming and will be addressed in our communication. But I think that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining us. Hope that this was informative for everyone. And you can email Heather with questions regarding affiliation and registration for swimmers and coaches. You can email Karen with insurance certificate questions and Dive Start certificate questions. And you can email me with your return to swimming questions. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone.